Has had an amazing week. My week has gone pretty well. Busy as always. Lots of stuff going on work-wise, and uh, personally gonna head into this weekend doing a simulated grip competition. So I missed the round two of the arm lifting USA grip competition due to an injury and switching the dates of the competition and all this other stuff. But the cool thing about some of that grip stuff is that I have all the devices that I've been training with for the past few weeks, so I can actually simulate my own competition, anyways, in my basement, which is pretty cool. Obviously, it won't have the same feel or anything like that, and I won't be ranked against anyone else, but I can at least compete against myself and go back and look at the results of other people in my weight class and see where I stand on that. So that's my plan for Saturday, and actually Sunday we're going to have family pictures done. So it's a joy in itself as well. So that's my weekend. I hope everyone has some cool stuff planned for this coming weekend and had a wonderful week. Um, Last week I talked a little bit about morning routines, some of the importance in morning routines and stuff like that. Shared a little bit about my own morning routine. But I was thinking about what to talk about this week, and I was like, well, I might as well talk about evening routines because the two complement each other, I think, so well. So it's not, I think, an evening routine is just as impactful as a morning routine because I feel like what you do in the evening sets you up for the next day. So if you want to have a successful morning routine, um, oftentimes what you do in the evening is going to impact what you do in the morning. So talking about what you do in the evening is also kind of important. And I think while the evening is more about when the morning is more about setting you up for a successful day and what you want to get accomplished that day and getting your day off set off on the right foot and maybe getting a little bit of movement in, a little bit of self-care, a little bit of mindset work in, and all that fun stuff. Evenings more, the way I view it is more just like winding down and getting you ready to, well, two things: getting you ready, most importantly, for a successful night, which is should be mostly consisting of sleep. If you're doing things right, in my opinion. So, because I think sleep is such a linchpin in every goal you have, weight loss, body composition, muscle gain, athletic performance, to be a good father, husband, wife, colleague, sister, brother, parent, whatever. I don't care what the goal is. Sleep plays an important role in that. So I think your evening routine should be number one, focused around getting you the best night's sleep possible. And also, um, I think there's a place in there for two other things that I've adopted that I think are really important. That's reflecting on the day. I always sit down, and I'll discuss this a little bit more in my personal evening routine, but I spend a minute just thinking back on my day, how it went, um, good things, bad things that happened, and try and just be mindful of the day. I don't use it as a way to beat myself up if it didn't go the way I want it to be, but just to keep that front of mind. Like, okay, today wasn't the best day, but what can I do tomorrow to maybe make it better? Or if there was something that went really well, I also make note of that as well. So maybe there's something I did differently that day that facilitated that good thing happening. Also, I think it's maybe kind of not. I don't know if I can draw any kind of specific health conclusions from this, but I also write at least one thing that I'm grateful for in that day. I write that down as well. It could be a silly thing like the weather, or it could be an interaction that I had with a person that was particularly impactful for me that day. So I always trying to find one good thing that happened in that day and just write why I'm grateful for that as well. So you get sleep, reflecting on your day. And also, I think I also spend a little bit of time in my evening also setting my next day up for success. So I'll talk a little bit how I do that as well. And it's outside of just sleeping well. I'll talk a little bit of how I do that when I touch on my morning routine, my evening routine as well. Um, I also think the evenings, if you have, I think the evening is a good time for social connection, right? Work should be done for the most part, or at least mostly done. You're going to have a couple of hours here where you're going to be could be around other people. So some people might find this time is when they head to the gym and they have a community at the gym, or they have some type of group that they belong to, and they might head to meet up with those people. For me myself, most of my evenings are spent with my kids and my wife. So after I finish work, it's they get home from school and work, and we can all finally be together for the first time in the day. So there's a couple hours there of just talking about our days and stuff like that. And actually, one of the things that we do as a family sometimes, this is completely dictated by the kids, and we let them do it. It was never anything that we forced upon them. But occasionally they get on a kick of like going around the dinner table and just everyone saying what they did in their day, what was the best part of their day, and something they're grateful for, right? And it's a great. I think it's a great thing that they do. I don't force them to do it. We don't. Me and my wife don't bring it up at the dinner table and stuff like that. But um, occasionally they'll get on a kick where they do that for a week or two before they forget about it or whatever. I find that it's really nice. I enjoy that. But that's like, for me, just going back to the point of like social connection, I think that, I think this is an opportunity to add in some social connection into your day, and that can be very hard for a lot of us in today's world. So I think finding some time during your evening to get in a little bit of social connection a few times a week is probably really good too. And I also need to make a better effort of adding a social connection outside of my family as well for me personally. So something I struggle with for sure. But what does I keep on mixing things up. My evening routine look like? Um, so I usually stop work, a little after 5 o'clock usually. That's when the kids are getting home from school. And so I'm the cook in the house. No surprise to that. Not that my wife is not a bad cook. I like to cook. So um, I usually get dinner ready for us. So just, we do a lot of meal prep, as you probably know. So it's usually just taking some veggies out of the fridge that are already prepared and cut up and just roasting them, reheating some food, maybe cooking some protein. But dinner is usually served around 6 o'clock or so. So we all sit down at the dinner table. We have a very strict rule in our house that at the dinner table we sit down as a family. There is no technology. There is no TV. There's no, I have my phone on me, but it is not out. It's not used. Same with my wife. TV is not on. Kids obviously don't have any technology at the moment. So, but we sit down at the dinner table and we spend at least a half an hour or however long it takes us to eat dinner. Usually within a half an hour, we're done. So from like 6 to 6:30, we sit down at the dinner table and have dinner and talk about our days. And like I said, sometimes we'll go around the table if the kids want to do that. If not, we just, my wife and I try to ask them questions about their days so they can talk a little bit about it, and we share some of our stuff as well. And so that's that portion of the evening. Um, Usually after that, the kids play for a little bit. My wife and I clean up. Then they'll kind of sit down on the couch for a little bit. The kids watch 15, 30 minutes of TV or whatever before they head off to bed. And so we put the kids to bed around 7 o'clock for them. I know it's super early and it seems weird to a lot of parents, but honestly, it's the best thing my wife and I have ever done. My 8-year-old daughter still goes to bed at 7 o'clock. So yeah, we are those parents. And then I come back downstairs, and most nights of the week, I'll be completely honest with you, 100%. I sit down at my computer and I work. Um, Pretty much right up until I go to bed. Maybe I give myself like 10 or 15 minutes before I go to bed, but I'm very conscious about what I do for that, around 7:30 to 8:30 time frame. Um, oh, I forgot. I'll jump back to that in a minute. I forgot to tell you about my journaling, but yeah, that 7:30, 8:30 time frame. What I work on during that time is very much. I try to make it as mindless as possible. Occasionally, I get stuck with a hard work problem that I'm trying to figure out, and it's very technical in nature. And I always find that if I tackle something like that in the evening, I don't get to bed right away because my brain is still working on it as I head into to go to sleep. And actually, sometimes it works out in my favor because a lot of times there have been countless times where I've done that and I've maybe been sitting in bed, not falling asleep, but I end up figuring out a solution to the problem when I'm in bed. So sometimes it works out in my favor, but it's probably not the best practice to have. So I try to make that work very much mindless. It might just be emails. It might be I might lots of times I can do writing fairly easily at night. That can be difficult for some people, but I can write fairly easy at night. It's not mentally taxing. It's not stressful. It's not keeping me up at night. Occasionally, there are definitely nights on the week or on the weekend, especially where I don't work. In the evening. I watch TV or whatever. I'm just not a huge TV person, really. I don't. There's no real shows that I particularly enjoy and stuff like that. So my wife has TV on. I pay attention sometimes, but yeah, I usually just kind of squeeze in a little bit of like an hour or so of work. But before that, in between dinner and the time the kids go to bed, I do a journal. It's a practice I picked up first because I find myself I have a very busy, tightly regulated schedule. And I found myself as my life got busier and busier and busier that I would just forget about what was happening the next day, like work meetings I had or obligations I had with the kids or whatever. And I would wake up in the morning and just be surprised by things that that were even like I knew were if I just looked at my calendar, I would have known were happening. But I didn't look at my calendar and I'd just be like, oh, I forgot we had to do this or I had this meeting or whatever. And it just kind of throws my day for a loop and kind of puts me in a bad mood if I don't know what's happening. So there was a very simple solution to that. It was like, Ryan, why don't you look at your calendar the next day before you go to bed, and so you're aware of what's going on the next day. It seems like a very obvious solution, but it took me a while to figure that out, and it was like a game changer for me. So I use a planner called a full focus planner. I just leaned on that one. I found it one day. I liked it. The way the day is set up, it has a calendar, it has a place for notes, it has a place for important tasks that you got to get done. So I just look at my calendar. Well, the first thing I do is I journal about the day. So in the notes section, I use that as my journal. Like I said, I just write about my day, went well, what went well, what went well, what didn't go well. My workout, usually things I'm grateful for, interactions I've had, that type of thing. So it could just be a couple lines, sometimes a lot of stuff. But I just journal something about the day. And then I go to the next day and I open up the calendar on my phone and I look at the calendar, what meetings I have, obligations I have with kids, that type of stuff. I write all that down in the journal, even though I don't need to, but I write it down so I know that I'm going to do it. And then I think about some important work tasks that I need to get done, I want to get done or work on or make progress on for the next day, and I write those in the important task section. And that's my journal. It maybe takes me 5 minutes most days. So it's not anything elaborate, but it does help me from a mental perspective the next day being ready to handle that day, right? So it's one thing I set myself up for. While I'm Most nights while I am working, I will have blue blocker glasses on. I'm not sure how much of a difference they really make, but they don't hurt. So I figure I might as well wear them. There are certainly nights where I don't wear them and I don't really notice much difference in my sleep personally. But bedtime for me is usually between 8:30 and 9. Yep, super early. And that's because like I said, I start my day at 5:10, a little after 5 in the morning. So it was a habit that I picked up when I had my son because he was waking up in the middle of the night. So I just needed as much sleep as soon as he was going to bed. Like I said, he's been going to bed around 7 o'clock for his entire life. And, you know, when you're a father of a young kid and you wake up in the middle of the night a bunch of times, I just followed soon after he went to bed, and we just kind of kept that routine going. It just works for us. So that's, my wife is also tired at the same time, so we both go to bed at the same time, and that's just how our family works. So I'm usually in bed between 8:30 and 9. I do, I don't do anything special about going to bed. I just, go upstairs and brush my teeth and go to the bathroom, and I'm in bed. I don't have any fancy routine about before I get in bed or special lights that I have in the bedroom or anything like that. I just go to bed. I don't really, find a lot of that stuff that's terribly impactful for me. Like I said, I wear my blue blockers because they can't hurt. Not terribly expensive to buy a pair. But other than that, I just, I use my phone a little bit before I go to bed. I'll scroll social media. I do a lot of the things that people tell you not to do. But that's only because I know that those things don't. I've tried eliminating them, and I know that they don't seem to impact my sleep one way or another. So for me, it's okay. But for a lot of people, I no doubt in my mind that if they don't wear their blue blockers or they scroll social media or they're on their phone or on their computer at night, that their sleep is worse. And just like everybody's diet is different, I think everything about everybody is different. So for me, it doesn't seem to impact me, but for a lot of people, it does. And I think that's you have to test it out and play with it. But that's a little bit about how I wind down my day, and that's the routine I've landed on for the past several years at this point. And if you have you know your own routine that you'd like to share, I'd love to hear it. I'm less of a nerd about evening routines than I am about morning routines for some reason. I think morning routines have more impact in my day than my evening routines, but my evening routines certainly, like I said, that journaling thing and just looking at my calendar the night before was like a game changer for me. So they definitely play a huge role in my life. But yeah, and spacing. The other thing I just want to say about evening routines, also about meal timing. I think this is the one place where I think meal timing is quite important. Um, is that I know that if I eat too late, like if I for whatever reason I have to eat at 7:30 or later or whatever, like then I can still go to bed at the same time. My sleep is not as good. That's another piece of the morning of evening routine that I think is important. So finishing up your meal earlier enough so that you're not digesting it while you go to bed. That plays a huge role in a lot of people's sleep as well. So that's another important aspect of a evening routine that I think you might want to consider. So for me, I find 2.5 hours or so is enough time for me to digest that meal and get me off into better sleep if it's any later. But yeah, if you have your own evening routine that you'd like to share, please leave it in the comments below or share it with me. I'd love to hear about it. If you are interested in receiving all the content that I put out on a weekly basis without having to stalk me on social media, please go ahead to my website at rjbhealth.coach. Click the newsletter link at the top and enter your email address so you can sign up for my newsletter. And I'll email you all the content that I put out so you can never miss it. And hopefully it's very meaningful and actionable to you. Also, if you are interested in coaching, right now I don't have any spots open. So please, but if you are interested, I'm happy to put you on a waiting list and let you know when I do have a spot open. So you can go to my website, rjbhealth.coach, and click the schedule discovery call button on the homepage and fill out the form, and then I'll get back to you and we can chat a little bit more about potentially working together in the future. With that, I hope everyone has a good weekend. This is my second long video of the week in a row. So apologize about that, but hope you find it useful, and I'll talk to you all next week.